Hi everybody, thank you so much for your support of the Cosmic Chats, for your attention and your energy, and just being a part of each episode. It makes all the difference. So if you haven't subscribed before, please consider doing so. The more subscribers that we can get, the wider the net that we can cast, and the more and more people that we can bring in to share their insights, consciousness, and wisdom, and reveal that in the universe for all of us. So thank you so much and have a great day. Welcome to today's Cosmic Chat with Debbie Sugarbaker. It is my absolute pleasure to be with you here on this beautiful morning and to welcome this Tuesday morning. I was going to say Monday because of Labor Day. It felt like yesterday was a weekend. But it is my pleasure to invite and to join Shannon O'Brien from Whole You Life Strategy to come on the show today and share about making life transitions. She is a career coach who helps people to go from one career to the next with all the facets and everything that entails, including resumes, including networking, including having the right mindset, etc. So she's going to share with us some really cool tips about change and about embracing change and making transitions, because we all go through transitions in our lives, even if it's not a major career transition. Perhaps it's a relationship transition or, any number of things. So I'm going to bring her on here. Thank you to everybody who rejoined. Hi, Shannon.
Hi, Debbie.
Okay, so here we are again. I was just kind of explaining to everyone. I'm so sorry that I don't know what happened. There was a screen freeze, but I'm so excited to welcome you here today. I just gave a brief introduction to what you do with Whole You Life Strategy. And so I thought that we could, first of all, welcome and then just get started.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm interested to speak with you and be participating in your live chats. I've watched many of them and I think that you're doing great work. I love you. First of all, we met many years ago, but it's been so wonderful to see all the incredible people that you feature and really the essence of what you do and why you do it. So I'm really honored to be participating today.
Wow, and I'm so honored to have you. You're such, in my heart and in my mind, such an esteemed guest, and I really respect the work that you've been doing for so many years. And just like the place that you come from is a very professional, very enlightened place. So I'm so happy to have you here.
Thank you. Yeah, I want to mention that we met through the Kabbalah Center. I was a volunteer for this program that I found out about called Spirituality for Kids. And that's how we met, is that I was volunteering on this program, which happened to be housed in the Kabbalah Center near Boston. And for me, it was really important I was studying at the Harvard Education School at the time. And it was important for me to study how to reach people as early as possible. When you have intentional education hopefully from in the womb, the earlier the better. And my journey since has sort of taken me into, we can kind of talk more about it, but I was focused on these macro level issues of helping people, helping the world, but then really having to dial it back from a macro level to a micro level and helping individuals. And as it turned out, it wasn't at the child level for me, even though I tried that. It's more about adults and more about ambitious, mission-driven adults who are in transition. And I love your topic, your suggested topic for today of transitions might not need to be so hard. And that really brings in the spiritual element of trusting the universe and having faith that there's a master plan. But then there's this interesting dichotomy or struggle, tension that, Bruce Lee said to be like water, my friend, to just go with the flow. Alan Watts talks about this flow of life that you want to be in. However, there's this, resistance to that. Really, I should just go with the flow. And what about when things happen? How can I participate and steer my ship a little bit more? So it's kind of confusing to take that advice to just go with the flow. And I like how you
It's like
kind
the
of.
proper, what is the proper use of will? How am I using my free will? Yes.
Yes. Yeah. And so one of the questions I know you wanted to pose, we can get into this as well, whether it's by force or by will or choice that someone's making a transition, how do you react to that? So change happens every single day, perhaps every single moment. So how do we go with the flow, and how do we be intentional about our choice to transition and make change? So I'm just excited about this dialogue. I'm getting ahead of myself, but want to
No, I think it's the best when people just kind of jump in with this, because as a listener, it's like it opens the box and you're like, wow, I want to hear more. So thank you for going right there. Yes, we met in the Spirituality for Kids program. As I remember, it was in the Boys and Girls Club, right? And we were
Mhm.
in the center, but we were going to these classrooms in the Boys and Girls Club and bringing basically tools, uh, like mindset tools, to children from underprivileged neighborhoods mostly, right? And
Correct.
they were, how to manage emotions, how to deal with challenges, how to deal with setbacks, things that all of us as adults, now people are really into studying, and it's become very mainstream, well-being and mindset and growth, because people understand that that's really the crux of it. If you can get that in order, then the rest of your life can really flow. So yeah,
Yeah.
we met in this beautiful program, which if anybody is interested, if you have kids or you know kids, you can check it out, spiritualityforkids.com. Everything is online now, all of the classes, so that they can reach many more people. They're in several countries around the world. But yeah, I'd actually be interested to hear, and I know a little bit about your background, but how did you even come to that program? And I know you were at Harvard. What kind of brought you into this place where you were looking to solve big macro issues?
Right. I think I was heavily influenced by the fact that I grew up in Europe, primarily in Geneva, Switzerland. So for 10 years growing up in Europe, I was born in the United States in New Jersey. And then when I was 3, I moved to Ireland. And then when I was 5, I moved to Switzerland. And if you know Geneva, Switzerland, it's sort of the headquarters for the United Nations. And a
Mhm.
lot of people that were working for the UN and multinational companies came as expats, and their children went to the International School of Geneva, and that's where I went. So my classmates, I was not a minority, I was an equal in the diversity. So my classmates were from Lebanon and Nigeria and Sweden and everywhere. And I think that seeing that beauty and being part of that diversity tuned me to want to be involved in that always. And so when I moved back to the United States, I went to a high school that was all white, and there was a population that was bussed in from the suburbs, and it was just very shocking and very new. And so I think that, diversity issues was my main focus for a long time, for about a decade, when I went to undergraduate and I studied intercultural communication at Boston College. And then when I was graduating, there was this other turning point or influence, which was 9/11 happened right as I was graduating. And so as a communication major, I said, well, I don't want to be working for a marketing or advertising company trying to sell people orange juice or cars. I want to be doing something else. And so I opened my mind to look at other opportunities, and I found out about this fellowship that was sponsored by Rotary International. And Rotary's been around for over 100 years. It's a civil service organization in almost every country in the world. And they had a fellowship called the Rotary World Peace Fellowship. And I reactivated my interest in diversity and international affairs and intercultural communication. And I applied for this fellowship to go to Japan. And I studied in Tokyo for 2 years. And my topic of interest was how to promote intercultural understanding through the media, which I was studying undergrad. And so that was my thesis topic. And then I had to narrow it down. So I actually focused on the Middle East post 9/11 and all of the misunderstandings that are happening. And I know you went to Israel recently. I was in Israel, I was in Syria, in Palestine, and Jordan, seeing this very, very diverse region where in the media, just at least all the 80s movies that I was, exposed to, was just like everyone from that region is just a terrorist, and that's obviously not true. And I wanted to understand it myself and then help others who might not have the exposure to understand it as well. So that was my first area of study. But like I said earlier, I was like, oh boy, this is like a centuries old topic. I'm not solving it, certainly. And then it kind of evolved to saying, okay, let me focus on myself as a first step, but then also just one individual at a time. And 10 years ago, I started Whole You. So it's like whole me, whole you, whole individuals working one-on-one to develop our, what I call balanced, purposeful life, but also an eye towards pursuing your life's work. Because at the time I was pursuing my life's work when I went to Japan and studying educational media. And so, what is somebody's life work? Because I think that that's a main thing that so many people are focusing on. Right. Even to the detriment of their health and their wellness and their mindset, as you were saying. But hopefully now it's coming all together where people know that that's a prerequisite to have a positive mindset, balanced wellness in order to pursue their life's work, because you cannot pour from an empty cup.
Right. And also life's work. I mean, something that I'm realizing is life's work, the work of life. It's interesting because I grew up in kind of academically intense schools, except culture and like a lot of pressure. And also I saw it in my family, people who were really hard workers, probably workaholics in a way, that their life's work became everything. And that's kind of like how the last generation was more. And then we kind of realized, one of the Kabbalah teachers actually told me, she said, eventually you're going to understand that the work is life, not life is work, So not my whole life is about work, but the work of becoming a better person is life. It's kind of a flip. And when she first told me it, I couldn't even download it. I was like, what the heck did she just say? Life is work, work is life, the life is the work, the work is the life. It was confusing. Mm-hmm. But over the years, I always remembered that was probably when I was 25 and I was working in a spiritual organization. But the way that I approached my job, my work was, pretty workaholic. It was that a lot of my self-worth and value was based on what I did, on how well I performed, because that's how I was raised, And yeah, you create great performers that way, but how fulfilled are they, and how much was I able to access other parts of life and to develop good relationships with people and to experience love and to experience joy and to kind of have, that broader depth of experience that we're here to have. We're not here just to, work like crazy. And yeah, there are, there's a lot to that, which you can probably say, because, then you can say, well, what about the person who, they in survival mode, and, it's also a luxury, but it's also a mindset shift.
Yes, there's so much there, but I really love that you shared that life's work is that blend of work is life, life is work. But yes, not making work your life is certainly what I advocate for. So I say, even though we're all kind of obsessed with our work for varying reasons, because it fits into our values, oftentimes because work is a vehicle to get money, and people want more money because they think it makes the world go round and gives them the things that they want. But what I advocate for is, yes, career is very important, but in sequence, I believe it's wellness of mind, body, spirit, and then career, and then service to society. Again, you can't pour from an empty cup. And I actually was guilty of that myself, because Rotary International, their logo or slogan is service above self. And so I was very indoctrinated in the service above self. And I think it's a beautiful mantra if, in fact, you are whole yourself, or at least very well on the path and very involved in that, and can give to others as well simultaneously. Because, just giving to others and not to yourself is also going to break you. That's why we see nurses.
I was just going to go into that.
Yeah.
Because doctors and nurses are usually a great example. First of all, I used to be a medical writer, so I worked in a department of surgery. And then as the daughter of a very hardworking surgeon, wow, I can tell you.
Yes. Yeah. So my mom was a nurse, an operating room nurse. Her two sisters are nurses. and beautiful humans. They care about other people, but sometimes, as we observe in the healthcare, they're burned out. They're, you know, maybe not taking care of themselves as much as they should. So it's a blend and a balance, and to try to bring some joy to the process and some flow, you know, and some trust and some faith, and focusing on your real values. So when I work with clients, one of the first things that I ask about is what their values are. What's driving this transition? What's driving this process right now? And some people admit wealth. It's money. I just want money. And I'm a little bit less enthused to work with someone on that goal, because yes, it might be important, but I almost think it's not getting at everything. So I love when people like really evaluate, well, what are my real values? Sometimes it's family, sometimes it's status or fame, but like just to be honest with what your values are. But to your comment earlier, I really think at the core, we all want peace, we all want joy, we all want love, and we all want freedom. Those four things are what we all really want. So I'm always you know, happy when I hear people admit that that's what it is. And so I just kind of account for that anyway, even if they're saying it's money and wealth that they want, sure. But I imagine that they probably want those four things, like wealth. They think wealth will lead to those four things somehow. So, you know, just designing a life to, and such an important point how you said that some people are in survival mode and struggling, and their mindset is all of the excuses of why that's for other people, that's for whatever category of person that I am not.
Right.
So
Yeah, and that, you know, that can be shifted. That's another thing that I'm really powerful, that I'm really passionate about, which you can probably see from the Cosmic Chats, is giving people tools where we can actually change our belief systems from the inside out, whether it's with Access Consciousness, with Theta Healing that I practice with individuals. Like you really, I actually did a session myself with a friend of mine yesterday, and it's like, oh, sometimes I just forget in a second how much power I really have, you know, in situations where I feel, you know, that there's really nothing I can do, or like that's just the situation, whether it's with a relationship or with a career. I'm like, oh, but that's just it. It's like, no, each one of us is connected to this infinite divine energy. And this, the awareness of this is becoming more and more prevalent, which is very exciting. Each one of us is connected to this infinite divine energy, and we have the power to release old belief systems, to heal things from childhood, different perspectives, and to really open ourselves to live a life that feels in alignment with who we really are, not with who we were trained to be or how our parents were, for example. You know, we can take, and then there's like kind of a sifting process, because you can take the things that work. You know, maybe you grew up like I did in an environment where you know, yeah, hard work was very much like working hard and intensely, and you know, academically was very much around, prevalent. I don't know how to say it right in this moment, but
enforced. Yeah.
enforced. But I can take those things and now I can apply it, and also bring in the creativity and the parts of myself and the spirituality and all the things that are very authentic to Debbie, you know, and kind of, you can take what works and you can discard the rest. But it's a whole process. That's why I'm so excited to connect with somebody like you who helps people to go through that process, you know,
Yeah.
because
You
it
said a
can feel
really
very
important.
daunting, and you think that it's only about, like, you're like, oh, I just need to get this job, and then like that's it. Like, it's like crazy. You can be like this very expanded person, spiritual, and then when it comes to be like making a change, it can be so scary that like you think like, oh, it's only about this and what they think of me. And we know, like in another situation, we know it's not true. We know
Yeah.
that like our sustenance and everything comes through, I believe, from the divine. And no, and people can be a channel for that, but I'm not dependent on anybody. But when you're in that position where maybe you're pushed up against a wall, it can be very scary and very daunting. So I think what you do in terms of guiding people is so powerful, you know?
Mm. Yeah, I think we can get tunnel vision of this. It's only this way, this one way, and we don't see a lot of options. And so there is a mindset shift that has to happen. And I would actually love to workshop it out with you, to imagine somebody who is stuck and can't get out, you know, and what would you recommend in turn? And maybe we should probably collaborate and work with clients together for the really hard cases. But you said in a really important word, which is alignment, and alignment with the real you, the whole you, not the mask, not the societal pressure or what you think's going to be cool, but just the real you. That's kind of it. And I think that really comes down to this 10-step process that I put together, this holistic development pathway, because there's so many different things that we could focus on. But I just focus on these 10 steps. And the final one is service, right? And then the first one is self-love, is like loving yourself, believing that you have strengths and skills and someone wants you and can benefit from those, believing in yourself in order to go through the process of developing your surroundings, your relationships, all of these things, your career, your image. There's so many steps, and then also blending in the helping of others. But have you come across a scenario or a client that you've worked with where they're so stuck in their mind and they think, like, what do you believe is the essence of, we could even role play, like, I'm stuck in this job and I have to do it. I have a pension, or like whatever the belief is, I have to do it because I have a family, whatever the reasons are that someone is so stuck and they can't get out of their conditioning and their choice.
Well, the thing is, sometimes, like, I would definitely start with like doing a theta. I would go into a theta brainwave state, which is a state in which you can access more information. And, they've done scientific studies on it to see that it's basically the state between wake and sleep. So there's a specific meditation that I practice that I can go into, and I can, it allows you to get information that may be in the subconscious of that person, because usually our blockages are because of subconscious belief systems, and it can be very tricky because there's all different sides to it. Sometimes, like, for example, I've had this thing in my back for like 7 years, which is like some energy that's like stuck in my back, and it's slowly now releasing, but I've had to do a lot of work, not just like 1 year of work, or like a lot of belief work, and releasing and changing my whole like vibrational set point, because my set point at that time was in a certain way, and I'm not even sure what it was like stuck in there, but we get energies that get stuck in our energy like mindsets that are associated with maybe something that happened to us as a child. I also believe like in past life, maybe something that came from there. Also generational patterns. I would like immediately go into a theta state, because there's so many things that are tricky, and yes, talking them out is actually very powerful. Journaling, going into, you think about, well, how is my parents' relationship with money? Where
Yes.
did my grandparents come from? What was their mindset? A lot of times, like, survival is passed like through generations. So even if a person is in a situation where, and actually I've seen this, where they're making money, but they can feel like there's always never enough, because, for 15 generations, their family really struggled. So to really be able to go in and to clear those things, I think is a huge starting point. And even if, whatever, I have a big trust that life brings us and will never give us more than we can handle. And also I believe in like a holy presence, kind of like a presence of this divine energy that's always there. So the fact that I'm even breathing and talking means that it's here, present now, and actually exists in the present moment. I mean, you can read like Eckhart Tolle or something like that, the power of now, that energy exists here and now. So when we do a session, whatever needs to come through to kind of loosen up those reins, to allow some flow. Because if a person is stuck like that, you just need a little bit of flow to see something in a little bit different way that I'm not, and to create an opening. You know what I mean?
I do know what you mean. And I'm so glad that you brought up the physicality. Sometimes, and I felt this way myself, I'm just a floating head. I'm a floating brain detached from my body. I'm not embodied. And I've been doing some deeper work recently to try to heal my body, because the mind body connection is really real, so real and so powerful. And you bringing up the generational thing, I mean, we're not only connected from our body, we're connected from our lineage and from the story and the history that's been stored, the traumas. Yeah, just a generation or two ago, my great grandfather was in a boat in steerage coming over from Italy. Like he didn't even know what was like ahead of him. Do you know what I mean? And then he was able to transform his life, but that's so fresh, you know? So yeah, to understand where you've come from, but also maybe create boundaries around it. That's not my story. I can create a new one. I can honor it and blend it and understand why, but then I can write a new story. But to this conversation, I would love to include, or, you know, I'm going to obviously be sharing this conversation with my clients, with prospects, because when I started Whole You 10 years ago, it was very much about, I might be a diagnostician or, you know, doing an assessment and working with people in this one way, and this, I kind of boiled it down to 5 steps or maybe 10 steps that I work with people, but there's so many different avenues that people might need. So introducing them to experts and professionals like yourself to say, maybe this would help you, or maybe that would help you. So that was actually the original business model and the intent of working with lots of different experts. And that's how I plan to continue to evolve and grow, by making these recommendations to people. And as you do, feature people in videos and interviews. But if you have any materials or like a meditation, you know,
Yeah,
for
I
that
can
people could
definitely
sample.
like, yeah, the theta healing meditation is to do a theta healing session. I believe is really powerful. It can also give you insight. You know, for example, I had somebody who, like, it was a relationship thing. Like, this woman was in relationships where there was always like another woman who was like there, kind of like giving advice to her significant other, or like an ex-wife who was there, like a big present, kind of like having the power. And so we kind of went into it. We realized, oh, it's actually showing her where she's not showing up fully, and giving her the opportunity to become a stronger, like to really embody her presence here on this earth in ways that she didn't before. So like, that's like a kind of a crazy example, but it's like we have these situations that come to us and we're like, wait, what is this? I feel like a total victim, and like, why are these people in my reality? And then you just get a little bit higher view and you can see, oh, how is this for my growth? Everything in our lives right now, if everything in my life has, and this is something that I also really picked up from having gone through loss, right? My brother and my father. Like, I started thinking about life on like a bigger, more expansive level. And like, I watched a lot of near-death experiences and people who went over. I'm kind of taking it into like another place, but you know,
Yeah.
so people who crossed over. And there's actually one interview of a woman. It was on this woman. I forget her name. She like left. She used to have a show. She's blonde. Anyway, she had this woman on, and the woman said that like she went to the other side and she saw on her soul like all of these that she had to like basically learn these lessons that were kind of attached to her soul, and that her soul had been through many lifetimes, and it had certain lessons that she needed to learn. And the biggest thing that she took from her near-death experience was when she came back, she didn't have as much fear to face things, right? She saw that a lot of times it was her fear that was blocking. So from all of that, what I've taken is that everything that shows up in my life right now is here for me to learn a specific lesson on my soul. So sometimes the lesson could be, you know, fear of loss. Like, you've gone through a lot of loss, so now you have a fear of loss. Or it could be, you know, any number of things. So what can I see right now in my reality? Like, what is it teaching me? You know, with all of the people and all of the players and all of the things that seem to be blocking me or making me feel like I can't move forward, what does all of that together, what could the lesson be? And so how can I learn it? How can I really release it? How can I do something differently? And we may not always have all of the answer, but that's like where, you know, a lot of other stuff comes in, like, you know, just being really present in the moment and being able to look at how I react to situations, like bringing it into the present and saying, okay, how am I reacting or not going to react to the situation? Like, our power with all of that understanding, the big picture that I just gave you, it comes down to the present moment. And am I going to react, or am I going to wait and just allow something else to come in?
Yes. I think either way, whatever anybody believes, having some objectivity and some distance and seeing some bigger picture. Because
Yeah.
when you are feeling trapped and I've got to go to the job or whatever, and it's like, or the problem's
Right.
happening, or the trauma is happening, it's in your face and there's not an expansive view of it. So putting life into context, I'm very interested and into doing that to the degree someone is comfortable,
Right.
because we get wrapped up in this day to day, and it doesn't, at one level, it really feels like it matters, but there's so much else. And in the context of past lives, if you believe in that, then it's like, yeah, just come up with a theory for yourself that's empowering, just like the one you described. This is in my movie. This is happening in my life. It's a reality. And how can I decipher it? And how can I say that it's a lesson? How can I learn from it? And so
Yeah.
whatever empowers people to do that, I'm
How
completely
can
all
I
for it.
learn? How can I become? I also believe we're supposed to become better. We're supposed to become stronger.
Yeah.
We're supposed to become more, like you said in the beginning, or we both said, more in touch with who I really am.
Yes.
How is this situation serving me to become more of my authentic self? Right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
So maybe it's causing me to really like go inside and, do journaling and really dig and see, why this job isn't working for me and
Right.
what parts of myself am I hiding because, I feel that I have to be here for whatever reason,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
really exploring and getting to know ourselves better.
Yeah. I like you, it sounds like we were from families that there was this pressure to perform and do really well, work really hard, and
Mm-hmm.
money hard to make. So you need to work hard. Like these are these beliefs that I bought into. And so when I moved back from Japan, I got a job working at the Harvard Foundation for Intercultural and Race Relations. It was a dream job in that everything about it, interacting with students, being on campus, promoting diversity. I mean, everything about the values was just completely lit me up. But the dynamics, there's a book title, something like, it's not the job, it's the people. It's never the job, it's the people. Like work is people. Work is people, plain and simple, and the dynamics of getting along with people. And so I learned so many lessons from working at Harvard, then working at this cross-cultural consulting firm, and then working at MIT. There was a bit of shift in the topic. That's when I started to shift from diversity into invention, innovation, entrepreneurship, and then was caught by the entrepreneurial bug. But I definitely look back at those scenarios and say, wow, there was these challenges or these people that triggered me. And how did I learn from it? How can I move on and evolve from those situations and give myself permission to say, this is not a experience or a place that I should be. It's not for my highest good. I learned the lesson. And when you learn the lesson, as Alan Watts says, when you get the message, hang up the phone. It's like, okay, this is kind of seen it run its course. And I don't need to
Wow.
stay there chained, because I said so, because I signed the agreement. I need to be there 10 years, 20 years. You can leave when it really doesn't feel right, when you don't feel that there's an exchange that's for your highest good and for your evolution. And so people change all of the time, and I think that they should, if they've really learned the lesson. Um, it's not, it's, they say that it looks better when you have a job. When you're looking for a job, you're already employed. You still have a job. That's kind of the best place to be looking, because you don't look desperate and jobless. But at
Right.
the same time, if you need to leave and it's miserable and you're so unhappy, I would recommend like leaving, and being in a better headspace. Ideally, you can work
Do
out.
you feel like people's like that might like the harshness of like, oh, it's not good to have jobless, or like this break on your resume is really bad? Do you think that since COVID, it feels to me that people are more like understanding of, those little breaks, or oh no, you tried something on your own and actually that's kind of like, well, that's interesting. This person really is a self-starter. She tried to
Yes.
start her own business several times. Or
Yeah.
like, do you feel like the consciousness is kind of opened up in general in that space from where it used to be, which was very much like, this is what you do and this is how it's done.
Right. Or at least that's you and I's perception of how
Right.
it is. That's what we were
Yeah.
involved with, and that's how the goggles that we had on. But yes, I do believe since the pandemic, if the pandemic it wasn't going to do it, what is going to do it? I think that was part of the purpose, and the silver lining of that is like, look, it's a work-life blur. It's not work-life balance. It's just blurred, and people are trying to figure it out. and you have to be compassionate with people and understanding. And yeah, they took 10 years off to start a business and have a baby, and that's it. And guess what? I did too. I was taking a walk with a former colleague the other day, and she's telling me about possibly going through IVF treatment. And, you know, she's dealing with this, but also at work. And she attends a work meeting, and her boss's boss says, you know, she's doing a pecha kucha, which is like a presentation showing her life in a couple slides, quick in these seconds. And she's like, yeah, and these are my children. By the way, I did it through IVF. So if anyone wants to talk about it, I'm happy to. And then this and that. So she's talking about her life in a work context, but also reveals this very private thing, and she's open to it. And then now, as a result, someone else said, oh my gosh, me too, me too, me too. There was like 5 to 6 people in this huge meeting that also had the same experience. So you're bringing your life into your work and realizing that they're not separate. And so definitely, to answer your question, I definitely believe that the pandemic, of all things, has opened up these conversations about the work-life blend, about how people are working, you know, maybe having a little bit more say, or as to whether they want to work hybrid or come in. Now people are maybe taking advantage of that, and like, I just want to work from home and get paid a lot and do nothing. Obviously that you can't do that, so there has to be some negotiation, but I think that people are more,
and also that wouldn't be fulfilling, because we want to, as our souls, I believe, like, we want to add value.
Yes.
We want to add value to places, you know?
Right.
Anybody wants to do that. I think that's like the nature of the soul. So after a while, if you were just doing nothing, and you may not feel fulfilled by that.
Right. I agree. Yeah. So I think that if people's hearts are in the right place, their intentions in the right place, to negotiate and feel confident negotiating. This is how I work best. This is how I learn best. If my children are taken care of, and I can make sure that they get on the school bus, and then I can work at this time. Like, I think, number one, focusing on the job. I think one recommendation I would make is not having that conversation too early. You know, like, hey, what kind of childcare does the company have? You know, I've actually made that mistake myself. Asking too early. Like, you need to prove that you can do the job and that you're the right fit and the alignment is there. And then the discussion really probably doesn't happen with the interviewing or the screening team. It happens later, after you're offered the job and you talk to human resources or whoever. It's a different conversation with different people, most likely, unless it's a very tiny startup. But I think that for the most part, you're just focusing on the job and whether you can do it. And then it's sort of like the dialogue of whether and how this job will fit into you and respect your life and the balance that you need.
Wow. It's amazing that you're able to help people to consider all of those aspects, you know?
Yeah, it's a lot, right? It's a lot.
It's a lot of things to consider. And then at the same time, I was like thinking, you know, well, first of all, that, yeah, you definitely need like a guide, somebody to help you. But I also know, like, in my own life, when I've made like career changes, like, for example, I used to be a teacher, and then I went to work full time with the Kabbalah Center, which was like a big change, like a huge change. What really carried me was, like, I knew it in my heart and in my soul that I wanted to make this change, and I was very certain about it inside. And most of the work happened, and then to leave and to do something else, and to go freelance, and then to do something else, like, at each transition, it's like the work started at least a year before. You know, like, people, that's just for me though, everybody's process could be different, but it's like you get that itch, you start like feeling, you get like a call. It's like a call for me, it's like from something higher that says, like, okay, you need to. And I kind of got confirmation, by the way, that, like, you know, on different transitions, like one of them, I got a call, like, I need to leave this job and go and work, you know, from a different place so I can be near my family. And it ended up, yeah, that my dad ended up getting sick, and my brother as well, and they both passed away. And I had a year and a half with them. If I hadn't, like, heeded that call, which was that you need to let go of this position right now, actually it took me to a great place, because it brought me to a place where I had the skill set to then go freelance as a writer and work on, you know, books for people, etc. I've been working in publishing. So, but I got like this call, but the work it was a lot of internal work to say, like, where is this coming from? Is this coming because I don't want to do that? Or is this coming from, could come from it because I want to escape the dynamic that I have with this person who works over me that is just uncomfortable. Like, I really had to dig inside internally while I was still working in that position and show up, and then finally make the decision to say, like, this is the right decision for me. I need to, and then to own it, to own it completely. And sometimes I think that it took me years, even after I did it, to really own my decision, because it was a huge life shift, to leave my stuff and to go back to be near my family.
Yeah, it sounds like it was the right shift. It was the right shift.
Yeah,
it was the right shift.
But even in myself, I think it took time. Sometimes I think, like, oh wait, what if I had done that, or did I put myself on hold? You always have a lot of things to shuffle through.
Right. And even then I said, like, right and wrong. And what's wrong is just if it's out of alignment. If you're going to regret, looking back and saying, well, I didn't trust my intuition or my heart of what I really wanted to do, and what I really wanted to do is be there for my family, come hell or high water, or suffer the consequences. But I know what I must do, and I'm gonna. And then when you kind of make that decision, however long it takes for the universe to kind of catch up with your logical decision, or if they're happening at the same time, but just to be in alignment and be honest with yourself. And I think working with somebody like you or me, or a professional who wants to help guide you and co-create this process is often wonderful. I've looked to other people as well, but I say this often, is that I want to make myself obsolete. I don't want to be like, oh, I have to call Shannon and get her opinion for her to tell me what to do. It's always coming from you. It's coming from within. It's coming, and maybe you just need to hear yourself think or speak and have an objective listener. But it should always eventually come from you, and that's the goal. And we should too in life.
I remember in that progress, people were like, "Oh, why don't you?" Because in my community, it's more of like a spiritual mind. Why don't you, like, did you check like your astrology chart? Did you check there and see like which I believe in astrology. JP Morgan said, like, millionaires don't use astrology, billionaires do. You can really see a lot about career changes and stuff in a birth chart, but. I said, like, did you check? Did you look into that? And I just, it's like at that point, I was so clear in myself that of what I was going to do. I was like, I don't even need to, I don't need to go to that position. And even though, and sometimes another thing that you might deal with if you need to leave a position or whatever is like, sometimes it's, you deal with kind of like judgment from other people or whatever. That's a whole other aspect for, why are you leaving, But again, it was part of my process to be really strong in my own decisions and not caring what other people think, because I happen to be a huge people pleaser. So again, it's all tied into our own personal growth and the lessons that we need to learn. Like, everything in our life is like that,
Right.
And it can really alleviate a lot of that feeling of like, the feelings that we get, which is like, am I making the right decision? Am I not? Like, you kind of feel like there's no support. But when you see that all of life is connected, even my work, even my career, all of it is connected, and I'm connected to a force that's living and breathing me, and that's connected to everything else, looking at things holistically like that really makes a difference.
Yes. I think that's the ultimate goal, is to feel that source, that guidance to something bigger, and to trust and have faith. I think that's the ultimate goal. But on the pathway there, I have found comfort in, let me look at my astrological chart for the day. Wow, the astrogens say such and such, and it happens to be spot on. It's kind of like affirmation. But then if you see something that's against it, like, wait a second, that doesn't align with how I feel about it, So it's almost, sometimes it shows you how you actually feel by consulting others. Like, that therapist was a quack, they said that I should do this and stand on my head and rotate for 10 times. Like, you can kind of feel when it's not in alignment and it's not right for you.
Or so sometimes, exactly. And I don't want to make anybody question what you said, but like, a friend of mine just told me 2 days ago that he had kind of gone through a dark time in his life, was kind of depressed, and he had been in the military before, and he wasn't quite sure what kind of life change to make. And he got this like ping to go to Singapore, and you know, an opportunity, and he went to the therapist that he had been working with, and he had just been kind of in such a low place that the therapist said, like, you think you're going to actually go and be able to like sustain a life in Singapore right now? And like, because of that, he went to Singapore, and he ended up being in charge of like, you know, like opening like 40 locations of this, you know,
Wow.
company. And he, you know, kind of got his life back, like the motors going again.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's just interesting. Sometimes the universe will mirror back to us something that'll just push us in the right direction, or it'll be the one that makes us say like, hey, wait a minute, you know, maybe there's something there. But either way, the universe is helping us. And that's like the certainty that we need to have, is that it's on my side and it's helping me. You know, like, what is it? Gabby Bernstein, she's another type kind of coach, but more in the spiritual realm. And she has a book called The Universe Has My Back, which I think is a great title, a great concept. I haven't read it, but
yeah. Yeah. Sometimes we just need to see the title and like, yep, I get it.
yeah, I'm like, that's a good.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah. Yeah. No, I work with people from all kinds of backgrounds. It's like everybody kind of experiences the same struggles that we're talking about, and ultimately it's trusting themselves and trusting that these changes are the right thing for their higher good, and what's going to bring them joy and peace and freedom and ultimately love, right? Self-love and love for others, and being around people that you love, or at least value what you value. They see the same vision, they have the same values, and they can communicate in a way, or resolve conflict in a way that aligns with how you do it. Like, we're not all the same. You know, there is something inherent in all of us, but we were raised differently, have different parents, grew up in different countries, speak different languages, have different religious backgrounds. We're not the same. We're the same and we're not. So you just need to find the pathway, the advice, and everything that fits with who you really are.
Totally. And every day is a chance to reveal more of that. And I say that and I'm like, okay, so let's embrace it. You know, where I feel like there's many places where I'm not showing up as my authentic self, and I'm like, this is inspiring me even to talk about it. It's inspiring. And yeah, I just wanted to end with the life is not work is life. Life is the work. And the work is becoming more of our true self. So if you see it through that lens, it takes a lot of the pressure off, because a lot of the belief systems that, or the ways that we approach work, is that, you know, there's a lot of fear around it, and a lot of sense of my self-worth being wrapped up in it, and etc. And really being willing to kind of dig through all of that is the work, you know.
Right. I love what you said about it takes the pressure off. It takes the pressure off. And you hear again and again from quote unquote successful people who have made it, especially entrepreneurs, that failure, I can't wait to fail. Fail fast, fail often.
Exactly.
Oh, wow, I learned. And
Yeah.
just it's actually not possible to make mistakes, because if your life is the work and you're on the journey and the process, it's just evolution and making you more whole.
Totally. And I can recommend, if anybody, there's he actually teaches with the Kabbalah Center, but he happens to also be like, and he and his wife, they have a very, very successful vitamin company called Mary Ruth Organics. And his name is David Guillaume. And I'm actually mentoring one of his classes right now. He's in terms of like business and, you know, making life transitions, he has like a lot of wisdom, and in terms of like success and that kind of stuff, the
Cool.
company.
Send me a link.
Amazing. Yeah. So his classes are great. So you can look him up on just putting it out there for other people on LinkedIn. I think he shares a lot on LinkedIn, David Guillaume. And another person that I just wanted to throw out there for anyone who's listening is Sue Morter. If for those of us who tend to be more in the head and want to learn how to be more embodied and to experience reality perhaps in a different way, Dr. Sue Morter, it's interesting because she also came from kind of more of an academic background. Her father was a chiropractor, and she's a doctor herself. And then she kind of like realized that she was living most of her life just from the head. And there, even in your consciousness, like she takes you through in her progress, or like I heard her speak once, and she's written a book also called The Energy Codes, how to awaken the different energies in the body. And she says, like, even in a moment, like you can be like sitting at a red light, you can like be in your head, but like take your awareness to like your solar plexus. Like even right now you can do it, or take your awareness into your heart space. and it's like you're in a completely different space. So she
Mm-hmm.
really opens you up to experiencing reality in a different way. That can be very helpful because, yes, a lot of this stuff is also held in the body, and when we can start to access those energy centers and work from that place, it can be, just another way to tackle things. But
Oh,
again,
definitely.
there's so many avenues because there's so many types of people in this world, and one thing is not going to work for everybody. That's what I believe also about medicine and healing, just having been a medical writer and worked like in Western medicine, but I'm more inclined towards like natural things and, you know, just seeing different sides,
Yeah.
experiences that I had with my dad uh, being sick with with cancer, and my brother being with mental illness. It's like I saw a lot of different sides of different things, and eventually it comes down to, what are your belief systems and what resonates with you. And what's going to work for you is going to be your own journey. You can take what works for you and you can leave the rest.
Right. Yeah. Thanks for sharing those resources. I will definitely look them up. And just my summer reading, a book that I was reading is about Tao or Taoism or Tao, however you pronounce it. But what's that?
Is about what?
Taoism, like the Tao,
Oh, definitely.
Tao, Tao, the
Yeah.
Tao of longevity and health. And two surprising things that I was coming across, again, from the physicality of it, is clearing your gut, keeping your gut clear and nourishing yourself, but also keeping your spine aligned. So maybe we could talk offline about it, Debbie, just with what your lower back thing and just releasing it and opening it. And of course, I've heard about this eating healthy and doing yoga and stretching, but this is like a deepening. This approach is really a deepening. Those are really your only two jobs: keep your gut clear and your spine aligned. And the opening and the physical kind of awakening that can happen from those two things is going to help on your journey as well. So in my next phases of Whole You, that's what I'm focusing on, is like going into the body, going into the physicality. Okay, fine, wellness, career, service, but let's get back to the wellness and start there and focus on it, because that's going to help you get clarity on your journey as you're dealing with all of the other challenges and triggers of life as well. When you have a clear body, you'll have a clear mind.
Exactly. Wow, there's so much. We've already talked for an hour. We could probably talk for another hour. Like, now that you're saying that, I'm like, oh yeah, I had this
Part two.
friend of mine in 2 hours. I had a friend of mine, Juan Carlos, on here, and he kind of specializes in parasite removal. He's like dedicated like a lot of time to like understanding of parasites and how they affect our thoughts and the way that we think, and depression, and just kind of working on himself. And so you can check out, if people want to check out that cosmic chat that I did with him, with Juan Carlos. It's very interesting. And
I will, for sure.
he recommends like a great line of products that he uses, that it's not like a one and done deal, it's a process, but it's super interesting. All of these things. And then the gut health, there was a time, sometimes I feel like we intuitively know things. Like there was a time in my life where it's like I was just craving all the time pickled vegetables and cold greens and pickled vegetables. And I kind of think it was a way, it was during a time where there was a lot of like people I loved were very sick, and it was a lot of emotions. And I feel like it was a part of me that was very strong, that was like, we're intuitively going to help you through this by keeping your gut strong.
Beautiful. Yeah, beautiful. Again, there's just like, watch out for my body's craving sugar and carbs and donuts. Like that's the call that I answered for most of my life. Like, oh, I'm not really seeing it physically, so let me just eat like dozens of donuts. But yeah, like maybe there's this deeper call and intuition to the greens and the food that's actually healthy for you. So actually, you do it in like what's this, like when you go to the chiropractor and they kind of muscle test and see how you respond to something. Do you want this donut or this collard green? Like if you really answer yourself and test yourself, you're going to know how to nourish yourself and how to select the things that are best for you. But yeah, that's a whole other conversation. I have some resources.
We're basically discussing the whole you. I hope we didn't lose some people when I went into the more etheric realm of the spirituality, but hopefully you can share, if somebody's not ready for that, you can share bits and pieces of our conversation.
Yeah, we might need to splice it up for people, but hopefully, actually not, because the people that you and I would like to work with and speak to and chill with are probably people that get all of it and know that the spiritual realm and the physical realm, and everything in between is part of the journey and the process and the evolution that we want to focus on. And so that's certainly what I discuss. So I know our time is running out. It's been really a joy to speak with you as always, and I'm sure there'll be more conversations either online or offline. But if
And I
anybody,
love that we didn't even follow I had set out like 6 questions. We went totally off the cuff, but it was beautiful.
yeah, we can do a Q&A and put them below or something like that, you know.
Oh, that would be great.
Yeah, put the answers
Because I
below
think
the
that those
chat.
questions would really help people, you know?
Yeah,
I feel like there are some people who are looking to make a change who popped on here, and I would love to give them that. So that would be amazing.
absolutely. I'll answer them and I'll send them to you to put below the post.
Much. Thank you. Thank you,
Yay.
Shannon.
Okay, thanks, Debbie. Have a great day.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good day.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.